the industry has a bad rep. Or they'll say you're a scammer, and I'm like, well, how? Because I don't sell anything.
Because you think, oh, a guy with a Lamborghini telling you how to get rich quick.
But we pretty much invest everything back in. I've still to this day not bought a watch. I've not got like a fancy car or anything. And I think I've failed so many times. You know, I lost over £100,000.
What is your formula?
Really put a focus on the quality and really take risks on new concepts. The hooks are probably one of the most important things. Getting someone's attention's hard, and you have to get it within a second.
How much did you invest before you started making money?
£1,000. We don't sell anything at all. We monetize through the sponsorships and the traffic.
The whole education industry seems to be going more to, instead of paying for education, you get all the education for free.
Like learning strategies, that should all be free. You have to just post, stay consistent. There'll be one episode that pushes the boundary and creates that momentum, and your job is then to ride it. But when you have that passion, you get through those low view moments, you get through those hardships. You are willing to learn, you're willing to fail.
What's your end game?
Riz, thank you for coming on, mate.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. I don't get invited often, to be honest.
Usually the other side of the mic, right?
That's it, yeah.
Riz, you're the largest trading podcast in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you doing bigger and better numbers than everyone else in the space?
I mean, there's two answers to that question. One's an easy one in terms of I was just one of the first to take the risk, because I don't know what your guys' opinion is, but I think a podcast is like this. We're in person. How fancy the studio doesn't matter too much, but the fancier the better in some cases, but mainly in person. Before I came along, any podcasts were all Zoom, just online. Even to this day, a lot of people are going that route, which is absolutely fine. If I was starting out, if I had started out when I first wanted to do podcasting, I probably should have done that, but I didn't because I assumed I needed all of this. So that was number one. I was quite early. It's not even I recognized a gap. I just learned you could rent studios, and I started podcasting. And originally, wasn't meant to be a trading podcast. That's why the name isn't like Chat with Traders or Traders 101 or something like it should have been for SEO purposes. But it was meant to just be a general podcast. But all my friends at the time were traders. Everyone I kind of knew were traders. And then whenever I did like 2 or 3 episodes, with my mom or my brother-in-law, and the views were lower. So I was like, people want trading. So I thought, double down trading now, come back later. But the second reason is because we consistently take risks. We were just talking before we started, like we take concepts and inspiration from outside of trading and try and bring them, if they make sense, to the trading industry. So like Simon Squibb's whiteboard concept with that top-down camera, we brought that to trading to break down strategies, launched a whole channel, and that became, I'd say that's probably the number one channel now. Hasn't surpassed subscribers yet, but views are insane. But that's a big part of it, really, is that we just consistently will travel around the world to the guests, always do in person, never remote. Really put a focus on the quality and really take risks on new concepts.
I think I spoke to Falak from your team about getting Raul Pal as a guest, and he was like, doesn't matter where it is, we'll travel. And it was like, you don't hear that often. We've had a fair few people come to us like, can you connect us with this person? But for someone to just be like, doesn't matter where in the world it is, like we'll travel, we'll be there, we'll record the podcast. I guess that flexibility for the best quality sets you apart a bit.
That's it, yeah. And then even with that one, to your point, and that's a good example actually, is we shot that in Dallas, I believe. And the studio we used was very similar to Chris Williamson's, the episode with Matthew McConaughey, the huge LED screen. So it wasn't the exact same studio. It happened that I think that was in Austin. This one was in Dallas, but it's the same screen, same type of screen. And so we used that. It's probably overkill, to be honest with you. But it's just that's what keeps it exciting. Because otherwise, when it comes to trading, especially having a niche podcast, it's very similar conversations. So how do you, even as a host, keep it exciting? So you have like the excitement of putting together a different production, a different feel, different environment. But yes, to your point, we will, for the right guest and to make things happen, we will travel. One issue we have right now is that we've over filmed. Like we've done 3 US tours or 3 US trips, 2 tours and 1 just trip to the US. So we've just in the last 3 months. So we've got too much content. So
what a shame.
I know. So we got a pause recording for a bit, unless like some crazy guests come along. But we're pausing recording for a bit, just get this stuff out, edit it correctly. We've again done some incredible concepts. We've done a surrounded type concept. So the Jubilee, 2 people sat in the middle, 15 people around them, 20 people around them. So we've done a concept like that. which was a headache, costs a lot, but worthwhile, hopefully. Should be really good. And then we've done huge roundtables. So something I've been quite known for, or kind of just kept a niche on still to this day, is roundtables. So we've done 4-man roundtables, which is like me sat where you are and then 2 on either side. But the concept I took that from was the Hollywood industry. And they do huge roundtables. They do like 6-person, 7-person roundtables. So we finally did 2 of those on my last trip. And again, big production. Try and think about how can you do the camera angles, the set, the table. The table cost $4,000 or $5,000. Just a huge wooden, nice actual round table instead of a table like this. So it's again just taking it. How do you keep the audience engaged enough long term? Right, you can capture some people's attention for maybe 3 months, a month, 6 months, maybe a year. But how do you keep them coming? Because the conversations sometimes can be relatively the same. You're talking about the same niche, the same problems, the same sort of advice from a different perspective, obviously different guest. But how do you keep it engaged, just doing stuff like that? Like, okay, you go from a 4-man roundtable, let's try a bigger one, right? Or let's try this concept, or let's try that concept, or this set. So it just creates a bit more excitement. One other thing we've done, recently, a huge investment was dubbing the channel. So rather than doing, just a cheap AI, 11 labs, which no doubt, will get better over time and eventually will be cost effective and high quality. We've gone to certain companies and done it to a professional standard in Arabic, Spanish in particular. And that's cost us over 6 figures to do that. But it's just, again, to try and, it might not even push the needle. That's a risk. But to your guys' points, how we kept that #1 status and that large viewership to this day, 4 years in, is because of that. Just taking these risks, thinking outside the box. And taking the risks is hard sometimes because, with the dubbing as a good example, or even with some of those concepts, you don't know if it's going to pay off. You pay all this money and you spend all this time, you make all these plans, but you have zero idea. But that's a guess at the end of the day, what all the people who come onto this podcast and everyone you guys talk to and deal with, everyone had to do that, from day one, and probably consistently do that to stay where they are today.
You've got to be the first to do it, otherwise you're just following someone else. You said exactly, yourself, you've taken inspiration from Simon Squibb and outside of the trading industry, but then people in the industry will start doing the same thing, but they're never going to get the same results you did because you done it first.
Exactly,
so if you do 4, 2 of them fail, but 2 of them go really well, then you're leading those 2 kind of content styles.
That's it, yeah. That's it.
How much are you investing in this sort of stuff? So just the America tour, in studios, travel costs, production, like what sort of money are we talking?
So it depends on the size of the tour, but let's take the 2 actual tours, if you will. So November of last year and January of last year, we did 2 in the same year. But the January one, we did over 10 states. I think 12 states. We did 20-something podcasts. And that was basically our whole year's worth of content pretty much done in a month. So that one cost roughly about $80,000 to $100,000 because you're talking, it's not like we were staying in lavish places or going out. We really didn't have much time. There were some days where we'd land, record, sleep, fly, record, and then do the same. But really comes down to the studios at most, I would say. And then, of course, some of the editing costs in there as well. But some of the studios we like to use, similar to this one, I think here in Dubai can be a bit more cost effective for whatever reason, to be fair. But in America, studios, the quality studios can cost quite a bit. You're talking $400 to $500 an hour for a standard setup. And then we try and add extra cameras in or extra lighting in, extra bits, and then we try to book slightly extra hours so we're not feeling the pressure of rushing. And there's always sometimes delays, or sometimes you want to build that rapport. Cause sometimes I haven't spoken to the guest, personally, especially on a tour like that, because you've got 30 guests across the month. So you get to build that rapport before, speak for 25, 30 minutes, sometimes a bit longer. Some of them have never been on a podcast, because in the trading niche, especially because we only interview verified traders, people who actually have a verified performance. So doing that has opened a door where there's a lot of people who've never been on media, really, not on socials, really, not focused on that. They're focused on trading. So then I have to kind of warm them up to it, and then they get a bit overwhelmed sometimes with all the lights and the cameras. But yeah, $80,000 to $100,000, I'd say. The November tour was similar. We did 3 states on that one, but we stayed longer in each state. So we did LA, San Francisco, Miami, and New York for that one. Probably made the mistake. Usually I go to like New York and then make my way around. This time we went straight to LA, and the jet lag was crazy. I wouldn't recommend that. But yeah, 80 to 100,000, I'd say.
That's insane. You talk about the verified only. How does that work? Because if you're pitching a guest to come on your podcast, I know people probably pitch you, and then you go, also, I need to see your books to make sure you're not a shit talker. How does that work?
It's just the nature. See, when I first started, it wasn't the case, you see, because of that fact. Because my mindset was like, when I started, I had no subscribers. I had no platform. Who was I? I was just some random guy. And therefore, I didn't verify because I was like, for that very reason, that mindset of like, oh, can you come on my podcast? And by the way, if you're going to come, you need to send me this, this, and this. So I thought, that's not going to happen. No one's going to come on then. So I really focused on the right message at the time. I was focusing on, were they promoting the right messaging around trading, like realistic expectations? Did they have some sort of verification when it came to whether it's payouts using these prop firms within this industry? So it's like funding companies. Did they trade live, on YouTube or within their community? And again, a lot of requests, like where people requesting them to come on. So that's how I would do it up until that point. But it got to a point where it's that classic thing where suddenly you have a responsibility because the platform had grown so much in a short space of time. And I had sat down with someone who was kind of like the original, I would say original podcaster, but it was before podcasts, right? He had wrote a book called Market Wizards, which was like the top interviews with the top traders at that time, which we're talking in the 80s, I believe that book came out. So it was like the original podcast, if you will. And I did an interview of him. And I never thought I just thought I was some retail guy, never really speak to these professionals or anything like that. So when I sat down with him and he said we're doing a great job, it kind of made me realize I had a limiting belief of like, I can interview the professional traders, the Ray Dalios of the world or the whoever. There's no limit to where we can take this, right? So then we made the decision to verify because he does 10 years. He does 10-year track records. So we were like, okay, we'll start somewhere. So originally we were going to do 12 months, but at the end of the day, 12 months, someone could get lucky. You could get like the conditions of gold. I'm sure you guys who aren't traders have seen gold and silver or heard about it. It was just flying up. Someone could get that for 12 months and just buy and then be profitable, right? So we went for 2 years, which even then is still on the lower side. But that was the mindset. It was like, okay, we have a responsibility now. We have a platform now. People want to come on the platform now. To get access to the audience, if you will, and the viewership we can get. So if to do so, you need to verify 2 year statements. So it's either broker statements or a combination of these things, but broker statements could be tax returns. It could be a third party verification site. So there are sites where they can connect their trading account and therefore it will verify the performance through that trading account. They could have already been audited. As I mentioned, a guy called Jack Schwager, author of Market Wizards. He's already done 10-year verification. So when we invite those guests on, I don't have to worry because they've already been verified, for example. So we use these means. And it can be hard because there are people who, even at the event, where we bumped into each other, there was an event called IFX the other day here in Dubai. And there were people coming up to me, how do I get on the show? And I say the same thing. The beauty of it is, the real beauty is that it means that anyone can come on. There's no notion of, are you famous or do you have followers or how profitable are you? You need to make millions. No, it's like as long as you have that 2 year track record, we can verify it. You can come on. Doesn't matter where you're from, anything. And the beauty of it is the peace of mind. Because when you have the unverified guys on, and it's not, I'm never saying, and I think the easy thing to think is that, you think there's good and bad guys. So you're verified, you're good. You're not verified, you're bad. No, it's just the nature of this business and podcasting is we have a responsibility. So we have a responsibility to the fellow guests, the other guests who come on, as well as the audience, of course. So we get a lot of peace of mind. I get peace of mind knowing that, hey, we've verified. So whatever this person says, whatever they do, we know we've double checked and checked that what they're saying is true and backed up by actual results. The audience loves it because now they can trust the words that they're hearing and really can put a lot of weight on what's being said. And then the fellow guests love it because then they know they're not going to be platformed next to someone who's maybe not good, right? Because all that would happen in the past would be when I host someone, I would do that sort of self-verification, if you will. But then a year later, they might do something. Or 18 months or 2 years. And then it comes back to you because you hosted them that time ago, right? And people don't care about how long ago it was or the context, which I respect. So by doing this whole verification thing, it's really like silenced any noise or any problems because everyone can be trusted. everyone can be they are verified. So then it just makes it much smoother and calmer for everyone involved. So, it was a decision, and it was a risk again. And I think that's another big reason why we then accelerated, because we started then interviewing these professional traders, some of the world's best, and it just opened another realm or level for the podcast rather than just social media traders,
Just breaking away from the episode quickly, because I have a question for you, Kane.
Okay.
What is your favourite thing in the world?
I can't say that on air.
Second favourite thing in the world?
Also can't say that on air.
Third?
Doing this podcast.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm really, really glad. But what is your least favourite thing about doing this podcast?
Production, editing.
Well, look, if you look at any of the top podcasters in the world, your Joe Rogans, your Stephen Bartlett, your Chris Williamsons, any of these guys, they all have videographers, they have studios, they have people doing their copy, they probably have people polishing their shoes in the background, right? There is a tool, Riverside.fm, which can do all of those things except polishing the shoes at an extremely high standard without the cost. It is the best video quality for any form of virtual recording. It also has AI tools to help you with things like show notes, titles, and even clipping up your episode into social media clips.
What's unbelievable is when you actually do the interview, whilst you're in the interview, it's already running. So as soon as you're finished, the social media clips are ready. You've got a transcript ready. You've got your titles done. And now it's a hosting site. So you can upload to Apple and Spotify directly from Riverside. So you only actually need one subscription to have a podcast.
That's a seriously good software, if you ask me. There is a link in the description. You'll get yourself 15% off, or you can just try it for free. And I'm even going to put a funky QR code on the screen.
You're going to.
Do you know why? Because I'm saving time on all the other stuff because I've got Riverside.fm.
Well, back to the episode. How do you grow a show like that when people don't know the name? Like with podcasts, a huge form of the marketing is you've interviewed somebody with a massive following or a recognizable name. When you're interviewing people who have never been online, how do you still get the same views?
That's a good question. The interesting thing is, and something we are very proud of, is that we're able to take a lot of the time, not all the time, but a lot of the time, because of the nature of like our trailers, our short form, our knowledge when it comes to the titling, thumbnails, we're able to take people who don't have a following and still make it a viral enough video. Like within our space, it's so interesting. Like when you have a niche, you kind of have to accept that you're probably not going to have 1 million+ views every video or very often. Like it's quite rare, to be fair. We've had one recently, but that was the nature of that video. But you have to accept that. So then you start accepting like what's a good performance. You want to try and get the 200, 300,000 views. 100,000 views is a good benchmark. Like as long as you hit that, that's a good place to be. But 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, that's, they're great goals. And then if you can hit 1 million, that's amazing. So we're quite proud of the fact that we're able to take our sort of formula, if you will, and our strategies based on, all those metrics and the different platforms and all the things that make a video go viral. And it's worked quite consistently. So even people without a following, we've been able to achieve really great results. Like our most viewed video on Words of Rizdom, so the original podcast, is a guy who had no following. Like he had 0 following. He didn't even have his face online.
What's the title of the video?
Title of the video at the time, because we've rehashed it since, I believe, but it was like, the world's best ICT trader, which is like a very, prominent and polarizing community within the trading space. But it was actually a video that was in response to a video that came out a few episodes prior, and that was the first video that really popped off. That was the first video that it was here in Dubai, actually, funny enough, and I think that's why a lot of people assume that I live here. For years, they always assume I live. I think because those videos were shot here, and I was wearing like the traditional attire. Just I don't know why, just for the the represent the country we were filming in. But yeah, so that was that first. It was in a response, if you will. It had like a bit of a response sort of element to it. And that was an interesting thing, to be fair. It's like, going verified, there's not much drama. Like, there isn't a lot of drama that takes place. Before, when it was like social media guys, there was a lot of drama where people would like, kind of not target individuals, but maybe like groups or styles of trading. This doesn't work, that doesn't work. So therefore, it create these polarizing moments that created larger viewership. But that first episode I was just talking about, that's the one that really took us from, it came out around January, February time of that year. And when we had finished the year prior, we were on 5,000 subs. So we'd gone from like 2,500 to 5,000, in that prior year. That year, we went from 5,000 to 130,000.
Wow.
right? And a large part of it was that video that sparked it off, right? That first one. And then the response one really took it to another level. And then we rode that momentum. Because my editor, who's my partner in everything now, Josh, he always said to me, you have to just post, stay consistent. There'll be one episode that like takes you over the edge, that pushes the boundary and creates that momentum. And your job is then to ride it. And that's exactly what happened. And when that episode happened, that was probably one of the first episodes we did trailers on. And then at that time, we didn't even do short form. But shortly after that, we started introducing short form. We started doing trailers on every episode. And then that's where like the snowball started to take place, that momentum started to take place. And we just continued. Till this day, we're still riding that same momentum, right? But then our job is, as I said to you, going back to that, is like to keep adding and doing things that allows that momentum to continue. Otherwise, it will start to fade. Because there were people, don't get me wrong, there were people before me who had podcasts in the trading space. Whether there were some people who did them in person, there were some people who did them remotely, and there were even just audio podcasts that would just so happen to have a YouTube channel that was really popular, but they just didn't innovate. So then they faded. So they, even to this day, they're still posting, and I respect that. But at the end of the day, you didn't take risks. So therefore, that's why I've, in that time, doubled or tripled your channels, only because I took risks and I invested so much. Like we don't buy like luxury things. I don't have like a supercar. Most traders, they'll have a supercar, or they'll have like watches, or I don't have like, this was a gift from a guest, right? I've still to this day not bought a watch. I've not got like a fancy car or anything, right? Simply because we put 90% of the revenue, which is probably sometimes a bad idea. And it's kind of like that Mr. Beast mentality in a sense, but it's worked. But we pretty much invest everything back in, right? So that we can level it up and push further and do bigger and better things.
I think it's really refreshing to see, because this industry, you said yourself, has got a bit of a bad reputation. People think trading, they go, oh, it's a bit scammy, because you think, oh, a guy with a Lamborghini telling you how to get rich quick.
Exactly.
Right? And I think where you've gone, okay, let me do the opposite and make sure everyone's verified and you're not trying to flash anything, and just making it a more human industry has probably worked massively in your favor, right?
Exactly. I think another part of that success, to your point, actually, your original question, is because it's all free. It's all verified. So people now, they can learn to trade for free. Obviously, these were podcasts originally. So it was more like conversational. It was more the journey, right? The highs and lows, what was your biggest struggle? What was your biggest trade? Like things like this. Then we introduced the Chart Fanatics channel last year, which is essentially just a strategy-based podcast. So we use as I said, the whiteboard, and then we get them to pull out their laptop and they go through chart examples, right? And again, verified traders. So we're essentially, the reason why we've been successful, I think, and the difference between our channel and say a lot of the trading content you'll see out there is because it's verified and it's all free. There's no catch. That we don't have like a community to sell. We don't have anything else. We don't sell anything at all. We monetize through the sponsorships and the traffic. But again, I like that, because going back to what we said earlier, like everyone wins in the scenario. So the verification, everyone wins, right? Everyone feels that peace of mind and that trust. But then the monetization, same thing. It's like, okay, it's all free. You guys come in and enjoy this high quality content we put together. Because of that, we get some great sponsorship deals. And because of those deals, we're able to invest it all back into the channels to bring you more content, right? And reach better traders all around the world. And you guys come support it and you watch it. And through doing that, everyone wins. So it's an amazing ecosystem, which then brings us to what we're launching in 6 weeks' time. In a week's time, we're launching another podcast dedicated to the prop firm industry and prop firm traders. Because the one thing of going verified is that I don't really get to speak to those traders anymore, but the prop firm industry is extremely prominent. It's like pretty much most traders are coming into the game now go that route. Yeah. They don't even know about other trading. So no one's really talking to those traders or those firms or the companies, right? So dedicated a channel there. I'm not hosting that one. I've got a host. I found someone who's a really, really, really great host, almost to a point where it's like competition. It's like, hey, you're really good, but that's good. So I'm actually really happy we get to work together in that way. And it could even be a way where suddenly he can host some of the other channels that I do, because it can get quite a bit sometimes. So we're launching that, but then 6 weeks' time, we're launching what we think is going to be extremely revolutionary, which is, to your point, the industry has a bad rep. A lot of people come into this industry with good intention, wanting to elevate their life, create financial freedom. and rightly so. But they come across normally, unfortunately, a lot of bad actors, right? They get scammed, or they go into these like signal groups or whatever it may be, or they're paying a large amount for a course when they don't even know if the person's an actual trader or profitable. So we're creating through our guests and all the network we built, and obviously these sponsorships we talked about, we heavily invested. We're creating the largest library of free trading education. So it's basically what we describe it as is like the Netflix of trading, if you will, right? That's how it looks. It's completely free. So A to Z, you can learn to trade entirely for free. All of these guests we've had on, they're providing 3 to 4 hour masterclasses for free. Super high quality, just like this, in studios. And we're covering Forex, futures, options, stocks, crypto, all for free.
It's going to be a separate platform.
Separate platform, independent this time. So not on social media, not on YouTube. So that'll be interesting.
Monetize it? Get sponsorship for the platform.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, same thing. So the beauty is that we just take the same model, because one thing, but we own it. Yeah, so we own the traffic, the audience, and we're able to do some amazing things. But again, it's just that same ecosystem. We provide it all for free. Because the thing is, when we've talked to people, they always like, even like brokers or like the company side or the traders side, or when they've heard about it, they always go like, why is it free? Or how is it free? Like, why are you doing that for free? Because they can't fathom like you would provide this much value and education for free, especially in our industry. It just doesn't happen, right? It doesn't happen. People want to even if it's a low ticket, $100 a month, they'll charge that. But nowadays, you're seeing high ticket be really popular. And I get why. Obviously, you can make a lot of money. But, it's hard for people to want to learn to trade, but then pay $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, just for a course. When you that information should be free. Don't get me wrong. If you're paying someone to literally watch them trade live or them mentor you, one-on-one, I respect that. You're paying not for the education, the course. You're paying for that person's actual time and guidance and their experience, which is fine. And I think I agree with that. But in terms of actual education, like learning strategies, that should all be free, right? It should be free. So we're making it free, and I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I think there will be some interesting backlash from the traders, the courses that we may hurt and hurt their pockets. But at the end of the day, it will force people to innovate and provide real value versus just, marketing funnels and YouTube courses around that.
It should improve the industry, really, shouldn't it? Because it means there's going to be less people flogging courses and more people, okay, let me sell mentoring instead. The upsell has to be a better standard.
Exactly.
It's all free. And I think that's a lot of, not just in the trading space, but a lot of the world is going that way. You look at Hormozy, how much he gives away for free. And then he's built acquisition.com off it. Simon Squibb give everything away for free. So it's the whole education industry seems to be going more to, instead of paying for education, you get all the education for free and then you pay for access.
Yeah.
Or you pay for support beyond that. And it's good to see that in the trading space, which, like you said, notoriously is pay for the course.
Yeah, and also to your point, the side thing being that you don't even maybe need to sell the access. Like with us, it's literally like you just monetize through different avenues, right?
Yeah,
you
well,
monetize the traffic side, yeah.
I guess it's like your funnel changes when you have a bigger audience. Like I always use the Tesla example. Like when they didn't have an audience, they sold a car that was like $300,000. So now everyone knows the names. Like, well, you can sell a car for $30,000 because you're going to sell loads of them. So like everyone you mentioned, like Squibb, Hormozy, whatever, it's like they've given everything away for free once they've got millions of followers. Like to start with, you probably end up selling something so you can reinvest that money into growing, and then it flips that you go, okay, now I can give back and I can help more people, which then I think makes more money because you're going to sell to the 99% rather than the 1% that can actually afford $5,000 for a course or whatever it is. And you're selling to massive companies rather than individuals, and they've got all the money to spend.
And as I said, the ecosystem's amazing because it's like those companies that you're doing deals with or sponsorships with, they're companies that the audience is using anyway, right? You're just getting them a really good deal, or you're just getting them in front of that audience. That's all it is. Like they're gonna more than likely come across either that company or a similar one. So it's not like it's some random company and that's where again though as a host or as a business owner, you have to do your due diligence in the trading space in particular, I imagine, because even those companies, you got to vet and you have to verify, if you will, which does make it harder, but it doesn't in one sense, because you just literally don't go for the biggest paycheck, because you can, in the trading industry, the biggest paycheck usually is probably a bad paycheck, right? It's a short-term one, right? You might get a month deal, 3-month deal. It sounds amazing, but in reality, that's a bad company, right? They're just trying to grab your audience and then do whatever they're going to do, whether it's fade off or just do some bad practices. So that's why we always try and do deals long term, right? We might accept less for it. Still a lucrative deal, no, don't get me wrong, but we might accept less on the short term, but it's a long term play in terms of you build that out and that relationship and that deal over time. And I don't know your guys' opinion, but I think, for the audience wise, I like to stay consistent with who I'm promoting.
100%.
Right? Rather than changing every 3 months or every 6 months. On Words of Rizdom, we've had the same sponsor now for 2 years, consistent. We've had on even Chart Fanatics since launch, coming up to, I think we're 9 months in now, same sponsors. I don't like to change. I like to keep it consistent and just work with people. I like to have good relationships with who we work with, because I want to perform well for them. Right, just as I want to perform on socials and I want to perform for our guests, right? I want to perform also for our partners, because that's the only way it really works. So I do think there's probably an element where people just kind of go, oh yeah, got one sponsor, sign it, whatever the performance is, it doesn't matter. We'll move on to the next one. There's always more. But I don't like that mentality.
It's the bane of our life. Well, we're trying to build a business around those long-term partnerships.
Yeah.
Occasionally you have to take the short ones, but the idea is always, this is a test with the idea to doing something bigger. And some content creators can be very short-sighted in the sense it's if it's short, I want loads of money. And you're like, but if you perform well, the opportunity is there longer term, or a lot of people won't take less money for something longer term, or they don't care about the performance. And there's just little elements to it where we want to help creators get paid fairly, but getting paid fairly doesn't always mean the most, because getting paid the most up front might mean you earn less in the long term. We've had some long-term partnerships now which are incredibly lucrative, which we would have thought would have happened, but it's because the creators were flexible at the start and built a true relationship with the brand. And it's better for you as the creator to go, here's one brand I'm associated with, than a new one every week. And it's better for the brand to have that association and constant promotion. And the audience, no audience wants to see you flogging something different every week. And then also every sponsorship you take on, it's going to do worse, because it's product of the week.
It's watered down, it starts to water down.
Your trust isn't there. When you work with creators who very rarely promote anything, and then they push a brand, it's much more like, this is a massive positive for the brand.
Where do you think a good benchmark to monetize is? Because I see a lot of people in my industry make a mistake where they only just started posting and they're trying to do affiliate deals and trying to monetize, and I think that's bad. I think, to Hormozy's point, and just generally speaking, though, before that as well, you build the demand first, build that rapport, build that, because I didn't even have a mindset of monetization. I love podcasting, so I started podcasting. It was Josh again who came to me like, you should probably look to monetize now. You got a decent audience. I was like, what do you mean? How do we do that? He was
That's
like,
an option.
Honestly, yeah. I was like, how does that work? And he was like, you get sponsorship. I was like, okay. So we went. Then that's where that started. But yeah, I see everyone in my industry in particular, and generally, I get it. Social media, yeah, I get it. Everyone wants to sort of build that social media following and monetize, but I think it comes back to what we were talking about, that short-term mindset, Yeah,
it is massively that. And the more you can give before you take, the more you can take when the opportunity is there. I was actually going to ask you, how much did you invest before you started making money?
It's a good question. To be fair, the costs earlier on were a lot less than they are nowadays, because the studios that we were using weren't as, sort of fancy as this. They were quite bland and plain. And it was still quite early on, I think, into the podcasting hype. I think I just started maybe a year before, It was just at the end of COVID. COVID was still going on, actually. It was just the end of the lockdowns in the UK. I probably spent, if I had to remember correctly, between the editor and then the studio costs, I would say at least maybe 30 to 40,000 pounds, at least around there. It's probably a good number. But that was over, before I monetized, probably about a year, literally a year before I then monetized. And I would say I'm quite lucky in one sense, because I'm in the trading industry. The monetization's a lot easier, a lot more lucrative. I didn't realize that actually until probably over the last year because I just assumed, you build a following, you could probably monetize in a similar way in any industry.
The
But
more niche, the better.
yeah, I think so. And then the finance industry in particular just has
massive.
a lot better deals in that sense. But I spent that much. Yeah, I spent that much before. And then even I remember our first monetization that we did a 3-month sponsorship. And I'd spent that straight away on a tour. Like I came here, I came to Dubai, and then I went to Miami, and and New York. And that 3-month sponsorship was gone, right? It was gone because it was literally just went, okay, let's go there and then film. And it was good though, because the risk to reward again was like, okay, we're taking a risk. First monetization, didn't like spend it on myself, didn't use it, spent it on the channel. But that's where those episodes, here came to Dubai. Those 2 episodes I mentioned came from. And then we rode that momentum, right? And then the sponsorship started to increase. So therefore the production quality started to increase. The team started to increase. It started with just me and Josh. So Josh was my editor for a long time. Josh had been through it in terms of there were times where I couldn't pay him to edit. We still edited, right? So I was very lucky in that sense. The podcast may have stopped, and then who knows if it would have started again. But because he was willing to still edit, it continued. So that's why we're partnered on everything now, because it's that sort of trust and that.
He bought in from the start.
Yeah, he bought into the start, and he was just, you can't buy those principles. It's really hard to find good editors anyway, let alone someone with really good morals and principles. And it wouldn't be here without, because he's a really good editor as well. Like he's a really like the trailers he did and the way he created them really brought a lot of views early on and really established us as a, because we're not only known as, say, just the #1 podcast, but we're known for our quality of content, and the ideas that we come up with and knowing social media and that formula, because an element of our business is consultancy. So we consult with prop firms and companies or other trading influencers and help them with their social media, packaging and scheduling and how they put things together. So again, it comes back to him, because people probably wouldn't assume that I knew that. They probably just look at the trailers or the videos and go, wow, that's really, really well put together. And that's him. But, the team now, I think, we're at like 35, 40 people.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because now we have like all these channels, so we split it up. So Chart Fanatics has its own short form, long form. Words of Rizdom has its own short form, long form. The new podcast we just mentioned, that again has its own short form, long form editors. We have researchers, we have logistics people, we have graphic designers. We have obviously developers for that platform I mentioned. We have a live stream, actually that's another channel. We have a Chart Fanatics Live, so we have traders who trade live. So then we have a Discord community, so we have Discord mods, we have people who run the Discord, we have copywriters, so we have everything across the board for the ecosystem. And that was an interesting thing you mentioned earlier about in terms of people may start their following, then build a business maybe rather than building just a sponsorship. And we tried that once. We tried to go outside of our wheelhouse, if you will, of content. And we created those. It's a big thing now. Like everyone has one, so it's really watered down. But it was like a comparison site for prop firms and trading services, if you will. And that would have been our own sort of business. And we were like, yeah, this makes sense because we can drive our traffic there and so on. But there was no niche there. There was no USP. It was like and by the time we had done it, there was one who was already established as like the biggest one. And then there was like loads more after we did it. Like everyone started doing it. And we just reflected, like we spent probably maybe, I don't know, 20,000, 30,000 pounds on that. And it's just like, okay, that's not working. It's just get rid of it. It's just like, let's just stick to what we do, which is content. So then we realized we took that same model of the concept of it, and then that's how we came up with the podcast for prop firms. Because we were like, well, instead of doing that, which everyone's doing, no one's doing this. We do this already. It's just copy and paste. Like we just literally take the same formula and team and structure and just put it into that niche within a niche, if you will. And so that's going to launch. So we've got a good, lucrative deal already. It's going to launch next week. And that's one thing we've been very proud of is like when we launched Chart Fanatics, it was a 6-figure deal before we launched.
Wow.
So before we even posted the video. This one that's launching next week isn't 6-figure just because the nature of it isn't as like, heightened as Chart Fanatics was. But it's I'm trying to figure the numbers now. It's like, it's high 5 figures. It's closing in on 6 already and we haven't launched yet. So we're very proud of that. I think we have a track record of our own now when it comes to content and the amount of traffic we can gather and sort of put together. So companies really trust us, and it shows in the deals that they do with us before we even posted a video.
It's association, right?
Yeah.
And like, going back to how you're doing everything with vetting everyone, etc. That's the sort of association brands want. And you were asking earlier, like, how we feel about the people pushing no affiliate straight away. And I think that's the difference. Going back to the very first question I asked you is, you've put £40,000 or $40,000 into something before it's even made a penny. And as soon as it's made a penny, it's then going straight back in to keep improving it. Whereas a lot of people, and we've worked with thousands of people to launch podcasts, it's straight away like, oh, let me earn the money to invest in the production, or let me make the money first. And it doesn't work like that.
Exactly,
it's a business. You've got to throw everything into it to be at the level you're going to make the money. And that's kind of what I guess has separated you. There's people trying to sell from episode 1, whereas you've gone, actually, let me just do it to a higher standard, and then it's come your way.
I think there's 2 elements to that. So like, one is you have to be willing to take risks. I think a lot of people struggle to take risks, which is why most people don't succeed at whatever it is they're trying to do, because that risk really holds them back. Yeah. But the other thing is also just understanding that you have to enjoy what you do, you know? I think a lot of people do things because they think it's the right thing to do, right? So like trading in particular, like people look at it and go, there's loads of people I know who they actually are passionate about real estate, for example, like property, but they start trading because they don't have the money for real estate. So their mindset is, I'll trade to make the money for real estate, but they're not actually passionate about trading, right? Same with like social media or podcasting. They just think, okay, this could be the thing. Rather than with me, I was passionate about podcasting. Like I didn't have a mindset of monetization. I didn't have a mindset of when would this work. I wanted to talk to people. Like I just enjoyed talking to people. And again, it wasn't even a mindset to be a trading podcast either at the beginning. That's just what happened. And then I enjoyed trading as well. So it was like 2 in 1. But that's the big thing, I think, is like people are doing things, making decisions based on what they think is going to be the thing that makes them money, or the thing that creates freedom in their life. And so they start things that they don't actually enjoy, or they might enjoy for that moment, but they're not really passionate about it, you know? So I always say to people, like, you should make content, but do it around something you enjoy. It's like, if you like fashion, bang, you like fashion, you enjoy fashion, make content around that. Don't think about monetization. Don't think about what content should I make. Just start making it, right? And then the biggest thing you can do is just literally look at the content that performs well within that niche. So if you like fashion, there's probably fashion people that you follow already, right? In pages, look at the content that works. Well, what's working on them? What could you replicate? What would you be happy to do? And to begin with, just replicate it. Make it your own. Try and put some twists on it, but just replicate it to begin with, right? And then as that starts to work, as you build your reps, you'll find your own thing. You'll start finding your own source. But because you enjoy it, you'll stick it out. Because when you start and you're getting like 1 view, 10 views, 100 views, whatever, that's the only thing that's going to keep you going, is that passion. Otherwise, your resentment will build after. It's just like when you go, you're going gym because everyone tells you need to be healthy. You're going gym because the society says that's what you need to be doing January 1st. But you don't stick it out because you don't actually want to be healthy. You haven't actually changed that sort of inner mindset to do that. Same philosophy there is like, okay, you started social media because you think that's what you need to do, right? You started posting about this random topic that, yes, you may do in your life. So like, I can use an example. I don't think she'll watch this, but my sister, for example, right? Year after year after year will do a different, says she wants to be on social media, wants to have that freedom and everything, but then tries a million different things, right? So far, she's done like 4 or 5 different pages, right? Around different things, whether it's like, she's a doctor. So like one was about like, the NHS and being a doctor. One was about, she's married to a guy from Kenya, right? So like that sort of dynamic. One was around that. One was around her kids. One was around this particular business idea she was thinking along. But the problem with that is that there's no consistency. So you don't get time to build momentum. And again, I don't think there's real passion behind any of those topics that she's chosen. She's just thinking, I want to get on socials. So let me do this. Let me do that, right? But when you have that passion, you get through those low view moments. You get through those hardships. And they don't feel like hardships because you're not really watching. Yeah, you may want to grow. Yes, you're doing it because you want to get to a certain point at some point. But because you're not watching, there's no pressure, right? And then therefore you are willing to learn. You're willing to fail, right? I tried a bunch of stuff before I did podcasting, before I did trading. I tried having an off license, right? A corner shop. Tried that. Tried to maybe get into restaurants. I tried that. Tried buying and selling DVDs, like e-com on like eBay and Amazon, right? But I was never passionate about any of those things. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to have like a life of freedom, but I wasn't passionate about any of those things. That's why they never worked. That's why I never stuck them out. But trading, I was passionate about. Like actually passionate about, not about the money. I actually was passionate about the endeavor of trading, the intellectual side of trading. What did trading actually mean? And then podcasting, I was really passionate about. So those two things are probably the only things I've ever stuck to long term. And I had no notion of, I have to make it in 3 months, 6 months, a year, And I didn't think about monetization or anything. And I think that's where people need to get to. So whatever their passion is, it might even be social media, but they need to just figure out what is it that I enjoy enough to do every day and not like second guess it, not like, not again, So at this point, I've talked about trading for 4 years, like pretty much every single day, but I still love it, right? If I didn't, I wouldn't be able to do that. I wouldn't be in the position to go, let's launch another thing. Let's do this around trading. I'd be trying to find a way out. And I think that's where a lot of people make a mistake. They just don't actually pick a niche or something they actually enjoy. They're just doing it because they say, society says social media, or social media is telling me I need to become I need to post, or I need to do this. And so they just quickly pick something out of thin air and go, let me just do it around that. And the weird thing is, to kind of go counter to what I just said, is sometimes you should think when you start as well, if you eventually, how would you monetize? So you pick, you do something you enjoy and then you figure out how would you monetize that? Because don't get me wrong, sometimes you might pick something that you can't monetize or would struggle to, that. Yeah. So you do got to be a bit calculated as well, for sure.
Quickly, you tried to start an off license.
Yeah, well, I did start. I had an off license. It was a long story short. It was basically my dad died when I was 5, and when he died, he had this off license. And growing up, I always knew I wasn't going to go to university. I wasn't going to do any of that. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. A life of freedom, create freedom for my friends, family, everything. Have an impact on people. But I didn't know what that looked like. So I first was nearly going to get into so buying a restaurant and doing that. But instead, this shop came along, the same exact shop. So I was like, let's do that. I want to do that. So I did that. It was just a big mistake. I lost over £100,000, it's between stock and the lease. And it was just a big, big failure, right? But it was kind of like a full circle moment and a sort of therapeutic sort of healing, if you will, doing that process. Because I think there was an element of like, I want to fill those shoes, if you will, especially in the same place. I'm an entrepreneur now. And I learned a lot of lessons, though, not only through the failure, but just generally of like what it actually means to be an entrepreneur. Because that was the first time I was really a business owner, if you will. Had to manage the hours, the stock, the staff. And before that point, I thought, because when I bought the shop, I first sat in there, I was like, let me start looking for the second shop. Let me start looking at some cars I can get, right? And that because that was the reality I thought in my head was like, once you're a business owner, that's it. You just it rolls over there from there, and you build another business, and you go from there, So I learned very quickly that yes, you're your own boss, but that means you're doing all the hours, right? You're your own boss, but now you're the one who has all the responsibility, right? And the only way to learn that though is to fail, essentially, or at least learn it the harder way, which is actually do it. People can say it, you can hear the sound bites and the clips, but the reality is you have to live and learn as you go along. And so that taught me many, it was very painful. Don't get me wrong, because after that failed, I was like, maybe I'm not cut out for entrepreneurship. Maybe, because I didn't make that work. Finally did something on a higher standard, if you will, but that didn't work. But I had to re-question and sort of like, go back and learn from the experience and then just continue on. And I think I've failed so many times, even in this, with the podcast, it's like I've made decisions that weren't the right decisions. I've had cancelable moments, if you will, but here, just learn from it. Like I think the very important thing when it comes to social media is there's two major elements. One is that if you're going to be on social media, you're going to get hate. It doesn't matter how big you are, no matter how good your heart is, no matter what your intention is, you're going to get hate. It just comes with the territory, right? Because it's just open forum, which is the beauty of it as well. But that, I think what's important is that you remember that the love is like 99%, right? But it's so easy to focus on the whatever 100%. Hate you may get, that one comment or whatever it may be. And the second thing is that you are going to make mistakes, but what matters most is that you know your intention. Like as long as you're true to yourself, and you actually are who you say you are, only you are going to know that, and only your friends and family are going to know that. That's all that matters, because it's just impossible to convince people, or trying to convince people of, oh, this happened because of this, and here's what actually happened, or here's this, or whatever it may be. It's just the nature of the game, and you just have to know yourself, as long as you're a good person, right? Obviously there's bad people, so you people question yourself, but but as long as you're a good person, like just always know that, like, you know, you made the right decision at the time, and you thought you were making the right decision, and you're gonna fail, you're gonna make mistakes, and you just have to learn from them. That's just life in general, right? But yeah, just always remember that, because I think a lot of people come into social media and they think, okay, because I'm this way, or because if I do this, I'll never get hate on, I'll never make a mistake.
Trying to avoid hate.
Yeah, but it's unavoidable, you know? It's like trying to avoid failure in
And
business.
also, if you're sitting on the fence and don't have any opinions, then you're not going to get any traction on anything you do.
Very true. Yeah. You're going to have to be polarizing. Like,
Yeah.
the formula is the fact that you will provide value. And even if you have value means nothing unless you package it right. And to package it right, you have to create some polarization, hooks, etc. Create emotion in some way. It's just the nature of the world, I think. Like, that's why you see headlines, like even news headlines on the mainstream news media. The headlines are clickbait, right? The headlines are there to invoke emotion. It's the same principle. It's just human nature, I think.
What is your formula? Because you mentioned you've got, well, including the live one, coming up to 4 channels, and you're able to hire a team and go, cool, here's what you have to do. So what would be your bullet point formula of, okay, I've got good information, whatever the niche might be. How does somebody build that into a YouTube channel and podcast?
I think the 2 elements that you got to focus on, I don't know why I keep saying 2 every time, but
Everything's always 2.
I need to go to 3, right? But the main elements really is, as I said, value first. Like, what is the actual value behind this? Like, what will people learn from this? So that you base it on that foundation, but the things that are going to make it actually get viewed by people and hopefully get pushed out by the algorithms, if you will, is, of course, yes, consistency, but it will come down to the hook, and the editing, the pacing is really important as well. And the packaging really around it. So like your title, your thumbnail, the tags that you're using, what time you're posting. I've seen people where they're posting at like 9 p.m. UK time. And I'm like, why are you posting at that? Well, what's the mindset behind that? It's not even performing. And I'm like, why would you post at that time? Doesn't even make sense, right? Your audience is UK. 9 p.m., yes, people might be on their phone. But at the end of the day, you want to be on their feed because you posted 3, 4, 5 hours before that, right? But really, it comes down to the packaging. So let's try and take an example. One of my first viral short forms. It was a dedicated short form, one of those fake podcast clips, But it was basically like off the cuff. I'd got a hook. The hook was the trading lifestyle is easy. That's a polarizing hook, very polarizing hook. But how do you make it your own? So I'm someone who always, like I said to you, I want to make sure the messaging is realistic. So it was something along the lines of this, but it was like the trading lifestyle is easy, so easy. Once you have the skill set, you can wake up, trade for 1-2 hours a day, and make the average salary and have pure freedom, something along them lines. Once you have the skill set was a very important part. But obviously, a lot of people ignore that, of course. But the polarization of the trading lifestyle, or I think it's a Forex lifestyle. The Forex lifestyle is easy. But that was it. And then the title was, of course, the Forex lifestyle is easy, right? Posted at a good time in the day. Didn't have a thumbnail, it was just a short form, but that did over 1 million views, right? To the point where people just took the voiceover from it and put it onto their B-roll clips, and they did millions of views and viral views. To a point, though, and this is where I learned a lot about social media, this lady from India just took the script, read it herself in the same format, not as, I wouldn't say as good tonality, but didn't matter. Still did 1 million views, right? So where I learned from that was content is content. They don't care how it's packaged, packaged in the sense of who's saying it or if it's a B-roll with the audio. Once you have that polarization, that really good hook, right? And maybe even the rest of the words as well, like the value within it, that will go viral. Whether I deliver it, you deliver it, whether it's a B-roll. That's why you got I think hooks are probably one of the most important things because, as they say, getting someone, especially in this day and age, like getting someone's attention is hard, and you have to get it within a second, 2 seconds, and the only way you're going to do that is a a hook, either verbally, something that's actually really powerful nowadays is even visual hooks, so or text hooks. We use a lot of text hooks on our short form now. So it's just literally like a subheading of this millionaire trader's strategy in 30 seconds, but it's on text. And so therefore you can take that, especially for podcasts. I think that's really big, because sometimes maybe the guest wasn't really the best in their delivery to have a hook. So now add a text hook, right? So that's been really good. But pacing is a big thing. Like for trailers, for example, like having someone who really understands pacing and storytelling. Because there's a difference between just having an editor who can edit, maybe throw on some music and pick some good one-liners or whatever, and then someone who can make a movie, right? That's why like Diary of a CEO is so popular, right? Their trailers are epic. Why are they epic? Because they think about the detail, the pacing, the storytelling of that trailer, just the trailer. It's a whole separate edit to the podcast, right? And I think we've done a decent job of that, right? As I said, Josh was really amazing at it, but then it took us a while to let him kind of take a step back and hire people. Very hard. Like even me, I was posting my own short form across all channels until early last year, right? So for 3 years, I wouldn't let go. I wouldn't let it go. Honestly, I wouldn't even automate it because I was like, no one's going to be able to do it better. Finally let it go. And someone did do it better, right? We're getting way better short form performance now because he's doing it, right? And that's another thing, I guess, is like learning to let go, because you can't, it's hard for you to work. Like, I would never have been able to launch as many as we have if I was still just working in Words of Rizdom and just doing everything, right? You have to really take a step back. It's a risk again, but you have to be willing to let go, because there are people who are better than you at doing stuff. They are better at the scheduling, the titles, the thumbnails. They are better at these things. So you have to take a step back. To be fair, though, I'd say this, and it'll be interesting to hear your thoughts as well, is that I feel like I'm one of the very few podcasters who's never edited, never touched a camera, never done a thumbnail.
Mate, we consult with people on editing thumbnails and everything. We don't know how to do any of it. We know how it should look, but we don't know how to do it.
Exactly.
So we have trusted freelancers, but we quite often will help people launch their own podcasts, or we'll go into ones that aren't performing well and we'll like do a bit of a turnaround project. And thumbnails, titles, editing is the massive part of it. I don't even know how to open Adobe Premiere. I wouldn't know how to do it. But I work with editors and I know it's like it needs to look like this. So yeah, it's more seeing the vision but not being able to do it yourself. What's your responsibilities now within the podcast? Is it just turn up and host? Is that about it?
Well, yeah, that's the main focus. The main focus is turn up and host. Don't get me wrong, we're still sort of like, we work on the titles, I think the titles, the trailers, like feedback wise, thinking of the bigger picture ideas, like concepts wise, and bigger picture ideas when it comes to the new businesses, or if they make sense. Like, don't get me wrong, we're not trying to like launch. We're not constantly thinking, let's launch more and more and more. It's kind of like we just recognize a gap. So to that point earlier of that website, I think I didn't get to finish that. So the website thing, it's outside our wheelhouse. The whole Words of Rizdom thing, we didn't recognize a gap on purpose, but there was a gap for in-person high quality podcasts for traders. Josh recognized the gap in terms of there isn't a dedicated strategy podcast. So that's where Charles Fanax came from. Then we recognized the gap with the prop firm trader thing. So then we did that one. Then we recognized the big gap of like trading education should be free. So that's where that came from. And that's where we're kind of hopefully stopping at there.
For now.
But that's where kind of our head is. Most days, like I'll work every day. Like I've worked every day for like the last 4 years, but it doesn't feel like work. No, my wife will tell you the opposite. She'll be like, you're always on your phone. And that's the weird thing as well. Like I operate like literally 99% just from my phone, and WhatsApp is like the best thing for me. I know people are like, you should be on Slack or this or that.
I hate it.
I'm on WhatsApp. Yeah, I'm in like 50 million WhatsApp groups. Like I can just search the name, find the group, and then I'm done. But yeah, like that's what I do every day is literally just following up on what needs scheduling, what are the next things that we're doing. Right now, like we're chasing the dubbing team. Like, is this ready? Is this going to go live now? We're chasing the platform. We're filming and organizing the mini masterclasses around the world because we're not actually there. Like, I can't to do that platform. We can't like go to everyone and shoot these 3-4 hour masterclasses and be there because we're not even on camera. We're just like and sit there. We have to book the studio, send the trader there, make sure that they know what to do when they get there, and then hope for the best. But we're pretty terrifying. I know. But it's pretty specific though. It's pretty specific. We send them examples, right? We have some edited, send them the examples. But like these are the things I'm doing day to day. It's not like I wouldn't say it's the sexiest stuff in the world, but
it's the small decisions that make the biggest difference.
Exactly, yeah. And what I enjoy most about the whole game is like doing all the from ideation to working with the team to then getting that end product. It's not even the views. I let go of that a while ago because you have a video. I don't know about you guys, but like you have a video where you're like, this is amazing. This is gonna be the best video ever. It doesn't really perform. It might perform well, but like not what you thought. Then there's a video where you think this is it's probably not going to do that well. I was about to say shit. It's probably not a good way to describe it, but like this won't probably perform that well, right? And then it performs amazing, and you're like, what the hell, you know? But I just enjoy that process from start to end, and then seeing the end product. You know, especially on these bigger, like when you do the bigger productions, such as those 15v ones. Like it's not out yet, but like when that comes together, that's going to be interesting. Yeah, because the first time we're going to see that all together.
What's your end game?
End game. That's an interesting question. It's really funny. So end game when it comes to what we're doing is I don't really have one in terms of the trading space. Like, I don't have like an end game. It's more so just to continue to have the biggest impact possible, really bring down that barrier to entry when it comes to trading education, and just keep doing more fun and innovative stuff, right? And hopefully end game as well, I guess, in guest caliber is like to try and reach those Ray Dalios, those Warren Buffetts, like those really world-renowned, you know, investors / traders that everyone knows, not even traders know, like they, you know, average everyday people know. Like get to that sort of level. That's a interesting path we have to take to try and get there. The other end game, when it came to me though, is really interesting because am I going to trading podcast for the rest of my life? Maybe not. I don't know. But I realized that what I want to do is become those influencers who just like, you know, walking down the street and they see someone and like, oh, here's a car. You know, and then they make a video around that. And that's my goal really, is like to be able to do content like that. Because obviously my whole thing has always been to, and why I started podcasting is to, because I enjoy talking to people, but the benefit being that people can learn from conversations. But my goal wasn't at the time to just be a trading pod. It's to be anything like mindset, just any topic, right? And that's a goal, but it can be quite hard to do, no doubt, especially if you're, you know, not known. Like you see these really big podcasts, you know, they normally have a platform beforehand and then they start a pod, right? So I was blessed to be able to do that through trading. But my whole goal has always been to make an impact, help people, whether it's their mindset or financially or whatever it may be. So like, I think my end goal would be to get to a point where I can do that sort of like Beast Philanthropy channel, like you know, stuff like that would be fun, would be good. Don't get me wrong, I don't like the idea of having to film that stuff, but I think I like the ecosystem of it, you know? Brands will pay you the money to go do it because you're able to get the views, right? So I respect that nature of it, right? I'm not like, oh, I want to film me giving money to this. It's more so like the brands will pay for it. They will give you $100,000 to go do a video or campaign or whatever and allow you to have that impact. So I think that's the end goal. But the beauty is, I think what will happen for me is I will start by self-funding it because of the success of what we've done, and then hopefully build it up and then be able to then get the brands involved after.
More sustainable,
right?
doesn't it?
Make it more sustainable.
I've bankrupted myself.
Man, you should see the amount of people who are like, why do you have ads in your pod? Right? And I'm like, how do you expect me to? They're like,
So
you're a
let's
trader,
remove the
pay
ads,
for it yourself.
But now you've got to pay £1,000 for this course, and it's like
Exactly, yeah.
you've got to make money somehow.
Honestly, yeah.
People are so short-sighted. So
It
they
happens,
pay or
yeah.
you pay. You choose.
someone has to.
But I get it,
Someone's
like
got
you can just go skip, you know? So I think it's
But don't do that, you know.
yeah. Watch it. But it's just funny, yeah. I've never got it, but I get it in the sense that they don't understand the business. It's like some people are like, oh, I hate your intros. You always cut off what they're about to say. And I'm like, it's a trailer. So what do you want me to do? You know? But again, we have to understand they're not content creators.
The general public are the general public.
Yeah.
What do your haters get right about you?
I would say my haters get right about me. Well, the one reoccurring one that's super annoying, I guess. I don't know if it's actual hate towards what I do, but it's more so just being overweight. Yeah, okay. That's it. Literally, honestly,
You fat fuck.
exactly. They do.
Trying to teach you to trade.
Yeah, exactly. They do. Honestly, that's the only thing. And it's only one that's annoying because I used to be in savage shape, but that doesn't matter. 'Cause that, you know, what relevance does that have? But it's just literally my excuse has been, and I'm fixing it now. I'm trying not to get on the whole peptides and all that crap. I say crap. It might be good, but I just don't know. I'm trying to do it the natural way. But that's it, really, honestly, because people will say, oh, you're doing it for the money. It's like, if I was doing it for the money, trust me, I'd launch a course. I would get the highest bidder. I would do this, and this. People try and say, what else do they try and say? That's the main one. They'll just say you try and do it for money, right? Or they'll say you're a scammer. And I'm like, well, how? Because I don't sell anything. So
that's the industry, I reckon, they're commenting
Yeah,
on. It's
yeah.
like, this is the biggest guy in an industry
Yeah.
I don't trust, so I'm going to give him shit. But actually, he's probably the biggest guy because he's not doing it the same way everyone else is.
Exactly. But the one thing they get right is that I'm out of shape, right? And that the annoying thing about that is like they're right, and it pisses me off because I'm like, that's the only thing they got on me, so I need to fix that, and then they got nothing, And I always reflect on like if I can work this hard and be as successful as I am whilst being out of shape, just imagine like everyone's got to be on their A game when I get in shape because I'll be taking over everything, right? So I want to, and I will, and hopefully we'll do this again, and I'll be looking like I was on a Ozempic, or skin and bones.
So did you stay away from those peptides?
They got me, man. It's too easy.
Awesome.
I appreciate your time, Riz. This has been fun.
It's been a
very much,
pleasure,
mate.
man. Thank you, guys.